Hey, good morning. This is handcrafted by Jason Cooper. If you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, check out my website at woodwork.cooperjason.com. Today I'm in the shop doing the next step in building some cabinets. I've got my cabinet bases over there with face frames, just about ready to go, ready for some paint on those face frames, and I'm building some doors. I've already built my my first one, just to get get everything figured out, all the measurements, all that good stuff. Just doing a simple flat panel door with this type of construction where the mortises on the, or the tenons on the rails and stiles fit together in the groove that's made for the panel. Very simple concept. In my case, I chose to do a 1/2 inch groove there, so there's plenty of room for the panel and a little bit more gluing surface for these joints. I've had some of the cabinets in our house that I didn't build, that are professionally built, start to come apart at some of these joints. I've had to re-glue them, so I am giving a little maybe deeper depth than I need. You could probably do 3/8 or even 1/4 inch on that groove and still be okay. But as you can see, I've got all the pieces for the next 4 doors that I have to do. They're all going to be the exact same size. This one was a little bit different size, but these will all be the exact same size, and I've got my grooves cut. And that's a fairly simple process. I've got a single chipper from my dado set in my table saw. Got my dado insert in the table saw, and I had it set up to run this. Of course, I've already run them 1/2 inch deep, to the right width. And the key thing here is to run one side, flip it this way, run the other side before you measure and see if you've got the right width. Because that way you know that this groove is centered in the boards, and you're going to want it centered in all the boards so that everything matches up when you do your tenons on the end that fit in here to glue it up. Otherwise you're going to have some unevenness. So I've already done that, and I like a nice snug fit on the panel, just enough so it can move a little bit. This is a plywood panel, so I'm not as worried about expansion and contraction as I would if this was a solid wood panel. Obviously you'd want to leave a little bit flexibility there, a little bit more movement, or room for movement, shall we say. So I've got my pieces cut, I've got the groove cut in them. I'm getting ready to make the tenons on the end. I'm just doing a 1/2 inch tenon. It's going to take some testing to get the right fit for the groove on these pieces, but obviously only the short pieces need that tenon, and so that's the next step before we move on to assemble the doors and put the panels in. All right, so I just cut all the tenons on the end of the stiles for the cabinet doors. And just want to show you the setup real quick. I've got my stacked dado set up with a 1/2 inch stacked dado and a sacrificial fence. And that's because I'm cutting all the way up to the end of the board. And so if I had my metal fence up against that blade, you're going to have a problem there. So you put in a sacrificial fence. In my case, it's just a piece of scrap plywood, sanded plywood, nice and smooth, clamped to the fence, and you're going to set your distance. So in this case, like I said, I need a 1/2 inch roughly. I had to fine tune it a little bit with my actual pieces, but right at a 1/2 inch. And then you're going to put your sacrificial fence in place. Set that measurement with your blade down a ways. If it's actually touching the fence, you'll need to lower your blade below the sacrificial fence, turn on the table saw, and then slowly raise it so it cuts just a little bit of a groove in the fence. You can see I've got a little one going on there, so that it doesn't, if you were to put that in place up against the blade and then turn on the saw blade, you could have some problems at kicking that piece right out of there, or damaging your dado. So you want to lower it below that sacrificial fence, turn on the saw, and then raise it up slowly to create a little relief cut in there before you proceed. But once you do that, fine-tune your measurements using a scrap piece so that they fit nicely in the groove, and then you can cut them all at once, which is nice. And as you can see here, I've got my stiles, or rails. I always forget which one is which. With the tenons on the end and the groove for the panel. I'm going to clean these up a little bit, do some dry fitting before I glue anything. But otherwise, my pieces are ready to go, as they will fit nicely. If I can do this one-handed, nicely in there. Nice tight fit. You don't want it too snug that you couldn't get some glue in there and wiggle it down in. So I'm going to have to do a little cleanup on these individual tenons. But otherwise, these doors are just about done. Like I said, I'll dry fit them, give them a good sanding before I glue it up, cut the panels, and then assemble. All right, so we're making progress. I've got all my pieces cut. I've done all the dry fitting on the rails and stiles. And then I've marked each one because each of those joints is a little bit custom fit to that particular piece. Sometimes I had to scrape a little bit off the tenon to make it fit not too snugly. So they're all marked, ready to go for the next step, which is going to be sanding. I've already cut my panels, and I cut these. Remember, I've got a 1/2 inch groove all the way around, so that makes the panel size 1 inch bigger in both directions than the opening itself. So if I measure this distance, then I'm going to subtract about 1/4 inch off of that in both directions to make my panels, so that there's just a little bit of movement in there, and these won't keep the frame from coming together when I go to glue it up. But the next step is to get some sanding, especially for these flat panels and these inside edges of the rails and stiles, because once I put the panel in there and get this all glued up, it's really hard to sand this efficiently, this edge here and right up to the edge of those panels where they meet these. So I'm going to take some time to do it now. Start with 120 grit, and then I'll sand the panels down to 220. Now the rest of this, these flat surfaces and then these outside surfaces, I can get all of those once the door is assembled. I'll do a little bit of that now, but I'm mostly interested in getting these inside edges sanded as well as the panels, and then we'll do some glue ups. All right, so here is one of the doors. It's just about ready for paint. Now I forgot to record sanding and the gluing them up, but it's really a pretty straightforward process in gluing these up. You're going to put glue in the joints. Now you only need to glue the portion where the tenon is, and I put glue on both sides of the joint. So I put one piece down, glue this piece in, put it in place, glue this piece in, stand up on end, slide in the panel, and then the same thing over here, put glue on the tenon and in the rail here, and then put that piece in place, get it all flush on the ends, make all my final adjustments, clamp it up and let it dry. And I always do a good, a dry fit, because I want to make sure the panel goes in easy enough that I'm going to be able to put it in. A couple of these were a little tough, so I kind of had to improvise and make it work, because it was a little tight on a couple of these. But it turned out great. I've got my 5 doors ready to go, 2 30-inch cabinets with double doors, and 1 15-inch cabinet with a single door. I've got my drawer fronts ready to go. Again, just nice flat panel drawers and doors. And it's a really pretty simple process. You can make these with a table saw. All you need is a regular blade and a dado blade, and you can build yours too. Now, if you want to get more advanced, if you're going to do a lot of cabinets, you can buy matched router bit sets that will cut the matching grooves and tenons on your pieces, And you can even get them in different profiles, some of the fancier profiles that are not just flat like this. You can get those if you're going to do a lot of them. But it's a real simple process. Doors are not that hard to make, and I look forward to getting these painted up and put on my cabinets.